Hey, what is up, everyone? So, with Season 13, we got the Burning Blade, which is this huge warship in the Sea of Thieves. Now that the season's been out for a little bit and I've been able to try taking over the Burning Blade a few times now, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about my experience with it, what did I learn while controlling the Burning Blade, and just my general thoughts on everything. So, as a quick recap of the event, basically how the Burning Blade event works is when it's not controlled by anyone, it's just a AI roaming ship, it will start sailing the seas going between the different skeleton camps on the map. If you want to try to fight with it, you just go and approach it, and then you attack it, and then you get in a battle. Kind of similar to how the skeleton fleet battles work, except you're only fighting one ship for this. But just because it's one ship doesn't mean it's easy. There's tons of cannons shooting at you from the Burning Blade, as well as you basically have to try to avoid going in front of the Burning Blade because you'll just get lit up by the flamethrower on the front. In my opinion though, when it's AI controlled, the Burning Blade is not too hard to take down. I actually think it's a little bit easier than doing the skeleton fleet because you only have to deal with one ship. Really the hardest part about it is getting attacked by that flamethrower, and then if it hits you, then you have to basically rush to get out all the fire on your ship. It's a pretty devastating attack, but it's one that you can recover from pretty easily. One of the things that really helps with it is if you get a small hole on your ship, hopefully somewhere where it's not going to let in too much water, like on the sloop where you're on the middle deck there. If it's somewhere on there, that's pretty good. I find that leaving one hole somewhere on the ship actually helps, because if you do get hit by that flamethrower, then you basically have an infinite water supply that keeps refilling. If you don't have that, then you're stuck with basically having the barrel that you have to keep using the lever, and it makes it a lot longer and harder to get out all the fire. So that's one of the things I learned about going up against the Burning Blade. Once you complete the event and you actually take over the Burning Blade, the event is pretty straightforward. You basically take over the ship, your previous ship sinks, and now you own the Burning Blade essentially. And then you go ahead and go to different skeleton camps and complete them, and you try to stack up your ritual streak. You can basically sell the ship whenever you want, but the more skeleton camps you do, the more value you get. So that's pretty much the basics of the event. I think it's pretty fun. I really like this event. But one of the things I noticed, and I think this is just a general problem with the whole idea of having player world events, where it's like PvP is supposed to be the main threat with it. It's not a terrible idea, and I actually really like the idea, but I've noticed that after a few weeks of any of these being added, it basically dies off and it's not very hard to do it. We saw this last year with the Skull of Siren Song, where at the very beginning it was very sweaty, everyone was going for it, to now when I do the Skull of Siren Song voyage, I have no threats ever. No one's ever doing it, and it's actually probably the easiest thing and an easy way to get 50,000 gold. I'm starting to see the same thing happen with Flameheart's ship. I think part of the problem with the Flameheart World event is when you're doing this event, you can't really do anything other than the skeleton camps. Obviously you can go up against other players. If you see a player ship, you can go attack them and steal their treasure and that kind of stuff. And you can technically go do like stuff like a sea fort and things like that. But really it's designed for you to go do the skeleton camps. So if you don't really want to do the skeleton camps over and over again, you kind of don't really want to go for the Flameheart event. That's not to say that other people don't want to come get you once you've already claimed the ship. I'm mainly just talking about claiming the ship in the first place. I find that it's a lot easier to get the Burning Blade now, which is actually a good thing, because I think at the beginning a lot of people were frustrated that they just wanted to try it out and they couldn't get it at all. But now I'm finding that, I'm able to get the Burning Blade, and then I can basically sail around and not have too much problem. I've had a few times where, there's someone around that's wanting to attack, and then I've had other times where, I'm the one that's the aggressor going to attack the players. But in general, I find that it's not as sweaty anymore. I think a lot of the heavy PvP players moved back to Hourglass because they probably just prefer that more, and then maybe they just didn't want to do the PvE element of the skeleton camps. So speaking of the skeleton camps, one of the interesting things we learned when we were doing the Burning Blade is, one, it's a lot easier if you don't know already. Basically, the skeleton camps work as a two-part structure, where you have the puzzle aspect of it with the star constellations, and then you have the second part of it where you're fighting skeletons. However, when you're in control of the Burning Blade, you get to skip that second part and you only have to do the puzzle. So it makes it a lot faster to do, and basically the treasury doors open right after you finish the puzzle and you just claim the ritual thing, and you don't even have to carry anything up. You can just basically run back to the mermaid that's down there and go pop up right on your ship. So it's actually pretty efficient and pretty fast to do. So that's really nice. But one of the interesting things we learned is the ship has to be close to the island if you want to be able to claim the ritual. Because one of the things that we were trying when I was doing this as a duo is one of us would jump off and try to go complete the puzzle while the other one sailed to the next skeleton camp, and we were hoping that we could get 2 of them done at a time, just to kind of speed things up. But we basically had to turn the ship around and come back because it doesn't let you claim it without the ship nearby, which makes sense, but it's definitely a good thing to know. With the Burning Blade, I think if you aren't fighting other players, it is totally fine to do as a solo player. I've done this as a solo player, and I even went and did some skeleton camps and stuff, and it was fine, but it is a difficult ship to manage all by yourself. The skeleton crew that you have is good for, repairing the ship and bucketing and stuff, but it's not very good at helping you with the other aspects of sailing, such as just being able to see around you because of how big the ship is. You can't really see that well, so basically when I was playing solo I had to turn the sails all the way to the side so that I could see. Sails is another aspect, being able to angle the sails. You can't really do that on your own as easily, as well as the anchor. The anchor takes a long time to raise up. So all of that combined makes it so that as a solo player, you kind of have to be a lot more careful. If you're going to do the Burning Blade event, I wouldn't try to stack your rituals too high, because then you're just going to make yourself a big target. But, go at your own risk. I found that it was a lot more difficult to control the ship as a solo player. What I did find though is, as a duo, it's a lot easier to manage. I thought as a duo it would still be somewhat difficult, but it's honestly not that bad. I think as long as you're not by yourself, you can handle the Burning Blade pretty effectively. One of the things that's kind of annoying with the Burning Blade is when you get the Burning Blade, you have all the treasure that's down in the bottom vault, and one, I don't think the treasure is that good. Really the best thing in there is a chest of fortune. And what I've typically done when I've gotten the Burning Blade is, just because I really don't want to lose the chest of fortune, whatever the case may be, I go ahead and just, as I'm passing by an outpost, I jump off with the chest of fortune and go ahead and sell it, just because I want to be able to get that combination up. Obviously, unless you're passing by Reaper's Hideout, you're not going to get the bonus for the chest of fortune, but for me, I really only cared about the combination. The other treasure down there I think is kind of lackluster. There's not too much that I found that interesting in there. I wish we had something like an Ashen Chest of Legends or something else to make it a little bit more interesting, because after this season, the Chest of Fortune is going to move to something else. So that's really the only thing that's of value to me in the Burning Blade. Now obviously the Burning Blade is a treasure on its own, and that can be sold, and it will be more valuable depending on how many rituals you complete. So I get that whole point. But the treasure in the vault is a bit disappointing. I also found that it's very annoying to have to carry all the treasure across the ship. So one of the things I found that's essential is having a rowboat that you put on the back of the ship, and then you just carry all the treasure and put it on there. Even though, the Burning Blade is just like a regular ship like everything else, it's a lot more difficult to try to sell stuff from the Burning Blade, and I found it was a lot more efficient just to have the rowboat and then row that all the way up to Reaper's Hideout to be able to sell. Another thing that I thought was really helpful is when you get the Burning Blade, you get the Obsidian Ashen Wind Skull, and that is actually extremely effective against boarders because basically it does fire damage as well as it does a knockback effect. And I found that to be very helpful when people have tried to attack us, so that's something to keep in mind that you probably should try to use. And I don't know, it's just a good thing. Don't overlook it. Another thing that I found interesting, I didn't realize until after the season started, and that's probably why if you watch some of my season launch videos, I didn't really talk about it, is I find it kind of annoying that the only way to get the Blade of Souls is by defeating a player activated Burning Blade, which is kind of frustrating because I just want to have that and I want to try it out, but the only times I've had the Burning Blade is when I've, claimed it, so I haven't been able to get it. It's kind of disappointing because that's one of the big features of Season 13, and the fact that you can't even really use it unless you find another player that's already done it. A bit annoying, but that's the one thing I haven't really got to test out yet. I also find some of the accommodations to be annoying for this season, like having to have an Athena emissary on and go up against a player-controlled Burning Blade. I wish it was just any Burning Blade, whether it's AI-controlled or player-controlled, because then I could actually progress that accommodation a lot more effectively. When I've gone up against the player-controlled ones, I'm just not close to an outpost to be able to put up Athena emissary flag, so it's just not worth it to me, and you have to do so many of them. But I think if they were to change that in the future, that would be a lot better in my opinion. Overall, I think it's a pretty fun world event. It's definitely one that I enjoy more as opposed to, like, say, the Skeleton Forts or even the Skeleton Fleet or something like that. I definitely like this a lot more, find it a lot more interesting. I enjoyed doing the ritual part of this. I think the only thing that I have an issue with is doing it solo, because I don't really want to do too many rituals and be by myself for it. Other than that, if you're in a crew of 2 or more people, you're going to have a good time with this, and I think it's not too hard to take control of. Now, if you have everyone in the server attacking you, you might not have a great day, but it's not the worst thing ever. One thing I didn't mention in this video, and I didn't really have any issue with this part of it, but just something to keep in mind, you can't sell the Burning Blade if other player ships are nearby, so that's not great if you're trying to, get off and someone just keeps annoying you by coming up. Keep that in mind, you're gonna have to take them out before you can sell anything. With that covers my thoughts on the Burning Blade. I just wanted to talk about it. I know some people haven't even gotten to try the Burning Blade yet and might be curious, like, what even do you do with it? What is the experience like of doing it? If you're a solo player, is it even worth going for? And I would say yes. At the very least, try it. Make sure there's not, a ton of activity on your server if you are a little bit worried about PvP. But with that said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Burning Blade. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? And have you even tried it yet? That's it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye, y'all.